but it's about being strategic about where the spaces and places where people are that can help you grow, not just your business, but help you as an individual grow professionally. And I often say to people, in addition to the networking, how do you build your own personal board of directors? You need, just like a company has a board of directors or an organization, you need your own personal board of directors of people that can speak into your life and help you grow. So just like you have mentors, you need mentors in this business space, but you need a personal board. And this doesn't mean that these people are meeting on you every month telling you what's wrong with you. It's people that you call who speak into your life. But these are also folks that are willing to call you out, but also call you
Mm-hmm.
in too. So when you're not where you need to be, they're calling you in and giving you some love and saying, "Hey, here's some doors." And those people ultimately can become sponsors.
You're listening to the Black to Business Podcast, an educational podcast providing Black entrepreneurs with the tools and resources to start and grow their businesses. We chat with vetted Black entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and business owners as they provide tips and resources to help take your business to the next level. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall. Hey there, Black to Business family. This is your host, Monique T. Marshall, back with another episode to help you in your entrepreneurial journey. Now let's talk about something that's not just important, it's absolutely critical for your success in the business world: relationships. As a Black entrepreneur, you know firsthand the power of connections. You've heard it. It's not about what you know, it's about who you know. And in an industry where doors can open or close based on who you know, cultivating meaningful relationships isn't just a nice to have. It is a must. Think about it. You're out here hustling, pouring your blood, sweat, and tears into your business. You're chasing leads, attending networking events, and trying to make a name for yourself in a crowded market. But amidst the chaos of entrepreneurship, it's easy to overlook the one thing that can make all the difference: social capital. That's why today we're diving deep into the art of leveraging social capital to fuel your business growth. We're talking about more than just exchanging business cards or collecting LinkedIn connections. We're talking about building genuine, authentic relationships that can help you navigate the ups and downs of entrepreneurship and propel your business towards success. And who better to guide us through this journey than the incredible Dr. Froswa Booker? Dr. Froswa isn't just an expert in network weaving and relationship building. She's an absolute trailblazer in the world of entrepreneurship, with a proven track record of empowering individuals and organizations to thrive. From co-founding Heritage, Giving Circle, and Power in Action, Dallas, to running Solstice Consultancy and the Reconciliation and Restoration Foundation, her impact is felt far and wide. So whether you're a seasoned pro looking to expand your professional network, or you might be a newbie trying to find your footing in the business world, this episode is for you. So get ready to learn actionable strategies and practical tips to help you cultivate the kind of relationship that can take your business to new heights. Let's dive in and unlock the power of social capital together. Dr. Froswa, welcome to the Black to Business Podcast. I'm excited to have you on the show, and I am also excited about the topic today. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here with you today.
Yes. So before we dive into the topic all about leveraging social capital to cultivate meaningful relationships in business, you are the go-to for this, but I want to get my audience familiar with who you are. So if you could share a little bit about your background, what is it that you do in your business, and your journey of how you got here?
Well, again, I'm so excited to be here with you today. And my background is one of, I did not expect to be someone who was very interested in social capital. I always knew relationships were important. I grew up in Shreveport, Louisiana, and initially thought I wanted to be a medical doctor. And because I was horrible in math, I needed to figure out something else. So I thought it was going to be law school and realized that wasn't it either. But the common theme of it all was I wanted to do something that made an impact in people's lives. And so for a number of years, I worked in nonprofit management or education, whether it was being, a professor or whether it was helping nonprofits grow their community work. That's a space that I stayed in. But because of people coming to me over the years saying, hey, I saw your success with how you helped this organization grow. Could you help me? And so I started doing consulting and started consulting actually in my 20s and went back and forth between consulting and full-time work until recently I ended up, making the choice to go back into consulting full time. Now, keep in mind, I've always had my business on the side, but I really found a niche in this season of my life and really helping organizations think about the ways in which they connect to community and helping them think about their philanthropic strategies. So, how do you really focus on moving from this ideal of outreach to true engagement? And one of the things that's happened out of that is I've discovered that a lot of organizations have challenges internally with their
Mm-hmm.
own community. And so,
Mm-hmm.
how do you go out and build community with others when there may be silos in your community
Right.
internally? And so I end up helping a lot of organizations think about their organizational culture and doing a lot of executive leadership coaching and helping leaders really connect better to themselves, but also then understanding what does it mean to build a culture of engagement within your organization so that you can better serve the communities that you're located in.
Mm. That is so powerful and such necessary work. Thinking about how they can connect with their internal community. That is so good. I'm excited about this. So, when you think about social capital, and I think that this is such an amazing discussion to have. And one of the things I love that you said is the relationship part of it, because I think this is something that people leave out. But I
Yes.
first want to start by understanding social capital. So, what is social capital and why is it crucial for entrepreneurs and especially the Black community?
Oh, for us, I think, and you said it, I think we get so busy with doing the work that we forget about the power of relationships. And
Mm-hmm.
so social capital was this term coined by a gentleman in the early 1900s named Hannafin. He saw some parents sharing resources and he coined the term social capital. And the term has gone through a number of iterations and it's shown up in a lot of different spaces. It's been in sociology, or you'll see it in urban planning when people are talking about quality of life and how do you create spaces for people to connect. But the most
Mm-hmm.
recent iteration was with a scholar by the name of Robert Putnam. And Putnam wrote a book in 2000 called Bowling Alone. And in this book, Putnam one probably did one of the most comprehensive studies on, community and looking at ways that people connect to each other. And what he discovered was a couple of things is that when communities have social capital, meaning relationships, associations, networks, that when they have these powerful connections, you'll notice a couple of things that will happen. One, crime is lower in communities where there's high social capital. You notice that educational outcomes are higher when there's high social capital, but you also notice that people vote when there is this sense of connection and community. And so I think we take it lightly because I did. I know when I was working on my PhD, I was thinking
Mm-hmm.
about, doing something totally different. And my advisor said to me, you love this ideal of relationships. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's when I became intrigued with social capital as a form of currency. I think in our community, we focus so much on the financial currency, which is not a bad thing. But what I tell most of the people I work with is you don't have a money problem, you have a relationship problem. And when
Ooh,
you get the right relationships, you will be in a
yes.
position to attract the resources that you need for your business. But if you are so busy doing the work and you don't
Mm-hmm.
find partners who can help you with being more effective and help you with thinking about being more innovative and creative, you're missing out on opportunities to grow yourself and grow your business. You need relationships to do this work well.
Mm. Dr. Froswa, you are starting off on fire. That is so good. So good. It is so
Thank
true.
you.
Yeah. We have to get out there and build these relationships. And for some people, they're thinking, I know I need to do it. And it can sometimes feel tough. So can you talk about some practical strategies for entrepreneurs on how do you start to build and leverage this social capital and relationships?
Excellent question. And I want to help people understand there are two ways of seeing this. There are
Mm-hmm.
transactional relationships. There are relationships where you give me something, I get something in return. So when I go to McDonald's and I pay for fries, I'm not expecting this transformative relationship, although that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm paying for a service. And sometimes we have to be okay in knowing that relationships are going to just sit in that space. But it's also important to start thinking about, what does it mean to build these transformative relationships? The kinds of relationships that my life is better and enriched because we came in contact with each other. And that takes time and investment to build. And so knowing that both of those are operating in our spaces as entrepreneurs, we have to be okay with knowing that. And so for entrepreneurs to build this effectively, it's thinking about, who's your ecosystem? And
Mm-hmm.
so the ecosystem may start off with, who are your vendors? Are there opportunities to build relationships with people that are in sympathetic sectors that can help grow your business? Are there associations that you could be a part of? So if you're in PR, there's no reason why you shouldn't join the Public Relations Society of America, but you also should join, like here in the Dallas area, you have the Association of Black Communicators, or NSBE, in other parts of the country. How do you start getting involved in these different professional and industry related groups? But the other thing I tell people too is, serve on a board of directors of an organization. One, it's an opportunity to give back, but two, it's another opportunity to build your network, because people who
Mm-hmm.
serve on boards are typically folks that are bankers and attorneys and accountants. And so you're now tapping into a very different network than the one that you're accustomed to. So for entrepreneurs, it's about strategy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about going to every single meeting, because you're not going to have the time or the bandwidth to do that. But it's about being strategic about where the spaces and places where people are that can help you grow, not just your business, but help you as an individual grow professionally. And I often say to people, in addition to the networking, how do you build your own personal board of directors? You need, just like a company has a board of directors or an organization, you need your own personal board of directors of people that can speak into your life and help you grow. So just like you have mentors, you need mentors in this business space, but you need a personal board. And this doesn't mean that these people are meeting on you every month telling you what's wrong with you. It's people that you call who speak into your life. But these are also folks that are willing to call you out, but also call you
Mm-hmm.
in too. So when you're not where you need to be, they're calling you in and giving you some love and saying, "Hey, here's some doors." And those people ultimately can become sponsors. You know, you hear that word a lot in the business space of sponsors are people who say your name behind closed doors. As business
Mm-hmm.
owners, you got to have sponsors of people who are saying your name behind closed doors, who are opening doors for you so that your business has access to opportunities.
Yes. So, so good. And Dr. Froswell, how does investing in this social capital contribute to the long-term business success and sustainability?
Well, I mean, it allows you, one, to grow a network, or I like to think of it as an ecosystem that you can draw knowledge from,
Mm-hmm.
but you can also draw resources from. So when you really start thinking about investing in this ideal of relationship building, you're creating a pipeline of success for you. So what does it mean that you begin to start, again, being strategic about, who's missing from my network? How do I begin to build these relationships so that later on I have these resources that can help me? And as we talk about social capital, it's thinking
Mm-hmm.
about these very different types of social capital. There's one that's called information capital. Those are
Mm-hmm.
people that have information that they can share with you to help you. Who's in your network that does that? And if they don't, you need to find someone who has access to information that can build you. There's also another type that's called reputational capital. Who are people that have reputations that you can work with, that can, again, say your name behind closed doors because they have credibility and they can help your business grow? You know, there's another type of social capital called favor social capital, where people use their favors to help open doors, where I've got tickets to this game and
Mm-hmm.
they open up doors and you get to sit in those box seats and connect to other entrepreneurs. So how do you become very strategic? And again, not doing this because you're trying to get something out of it. It's looking at, how do you make it mutually beneficial for both you and the person that you're in partnership and in community with, because if you win, you want other people to win as well. And so investing in this has long-term implications for your business to grow because you're growing your relationships.
Yes. So good. And how do you differentiate between just simply networking and truly
Yes.
cultivating these meaningful relationships?
Yes, and I think people get that
Yes.
confused. Networking is me going out handing you a business card, and there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing wrong with that. The goal is, and I tell people when you do this within 24 hours, at the latest 48, you need to send a follow-up email because you want to stay fresh on people's mind. So networking is okay, but it can't stay there. It has to move to this other space of how do you make this meaningful relationship? That means I got to go to coffee with you. That means I've got to set
Mm-hmm.
up time to get to know you. And we may start off with a 20-minute conversation. How do we then make sure that in a month we're getting back together and following up? And even if this person can't help you, don't dismiss it. What you have to understand is they may be connected to someone who can help you. So even when people say no, mine is always, well, who would you recommend that I talk to next? So even
Right.
in the networking, if you meet someone that cannot be a help to you, they may not personally, but that doesn't mean their network can't be assessed for you to be able to have access to that. And so the networking is good, but you got to follow up. And where a lot of people mess up with networking is they pass out a card, they don't call people, they don't follow up. And then when
Mm-hmm.
you need something, then you're reaching out and the person doesn't remember you, or they feel used because now all of a sudden you need something and you didn't take the time to cultivate the relationship. So make sure that you move the networking. And again, not all of these relationships are going to move into something meaningful, but you do want to leave a door open that you can walk back through if you need to.
Yes. Solid advice. Solid advice. And speaking of networking, I want to talk about network weaving and just more on the power of building these relationships. So you talk about being a network weaver. Like, what does this
Yes.
mean? And if you can explain this concept and the significance for entrepreneurs.
So a network weaver is someone who sees the power of connection. And it shows up in a number of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's just being a connector.
Yeah.
I typically will talk to people and go, need to meet so and so, and I need to introduce you. And that's what I spend a lot of my time doing, and known
Mm-hmm.
for doing that is I'm always seeing people as possibilities. And so part of being a network weaver is connecting people to each other, seeing that people are the answers to problems. But then there's another type of network weaver that's a facilitator, which is one who goes beyond making the connection, who says, I'm going to bring you all together. So I may convene a group of people. One of the things Putnam says in his book is that at one time people used to have dinner parties. That was a way of
Mm-hmm.
building social capital. Well, you see now many of us are, so busy that we don't have time to create these spaces of connection. So what does it mean for you as a person who wants to build networks to facilitate that and get people together to start conversations and building their own, networks? And I'm going off the work of an amazing mentor of mine named June Holly, who is the guru of network weaving, who's taught me so much in this space.
Mm-hmm.
But June also talks about, there are people that are guardians of networks, where these are folks who make sure the network is healthy, that when there's conflict, you're the one who's supporting the network going, we're not going to have this. We're going
Right.
to figure out how we work together because we need each other. And then there usually are people who, make sure that the network has what it needs. So I may take notes, I may bring the drinks, but I want to make sure the network has what it needs to continue to grow. And so for me, being a network weaver is I look at people again as the solution to problems. And if I can connect you to each other, y'all with your brilliance can make magic happen. But it's being open and not being selfish and hoarding relationships. It's knowing that
Mm-hmm.
they may grow without you, and you have to be okay with that.
Mm. That's so good. And somebody's listening, they're like, okay, I want to be like this. I want to be an effective network reader. So, what advice would you give an entrepreneur on how to become an effective network reader through nurturing these genuine relationships with whether it be clients, customers, or even peers?
So it's going to require you to build your network. You can't bring other people together if you don't have people that you can move around in these spaces. So you've got to
Mm-hmm.
build your network first. But secondly, I think think about the importance of convening. What does it
Mm-hmm.
mean as a business owner to either be a part of meetings or set up events where you're bringing people together? You don't have to spend a lot of money to do that, but there are opportunities where you could pull your clients together where they could do a mastermind group. You still can benefit from doing that. You could charge possibly for that, but you're bringing your expertise along with the expertise of your clients, and now you're creating a win-win situation for them sharing their information and resources with one another. So there are ways that you can bring people together and grow your clients, and they go and tell other people, hey, I was able to benefit from this amazing opportunity of connecting. You need to know this person. I think the fear that many of us have is we don't want to connect people to others because there's a fear of losing this relationship or losing power. What people fail to realize is that when you're intentional about bringing people together, folks will say your name in rooms you're not in because they know you're the one that connected them. And even if they don't say your name, you do it because it's the right thing to do and making sure that people in our communities have what they need to thrive. And so if we're going to really do this as entrepreneurs, again, it goes back to strategy. So what does it mean for us to really think about who's missing? And how do we begin to not only bring those folks that we know and go deeper and leverage those existing relationships, but what does it mean to start looking at who's missing and how do we bring them into our network? Do we need an accountant? Do we need a mechanic? How do we begin to start bringing those people? And again, being strategic and not just grabbing folks, but thinking about what does it mean for your ecosystem to be healthy and who needs to be a part of that so that you can grow.
Mm, I love that. Like, who do we need? And would you say that's like, because my next question is about identifying those key people. So identifying those key players within our networks and trying to create something that is mutually beneficial. So how do you go about identifying that?
So I think you start off with, and again, this is a mistake people make. They go after people with titles.
Mm-hmm.
So you see X in a newspaper and you go, I need to know them. And the reality is they may not be as influential as you believe that they are. They just got some good press.
Right.
So be very careful of going after people because of that. You base your decision on what you need, not on an individual. And that's where a lot of people mess up.
Mm-hmm.
So really start thinking about what are the characteristics that you need or qualities or information or knowledge or access that you need. And once you're able to identify that, then it becomes easier to start identifying and saying to your network, I need someone who can help me with X. I often find that when I'm helping people think about their networks, one of the challenges that comes up is people go, well, I don't know anybody, because you're thinking of a person. You're not thinking of
Mm-hmm.
a actual descriptor or characteristic that you need. And so focus on what is it that you need to grow. Is it someone with access to capital? Is it someone who has a larger network that you want to be a part of? Is it that I need a photographer because I need someone to go around with me and take pictures? Instead of going, I need a person, think about what is the description, the quality, the result that you want, and then plug people into that space and use your network to help you identify. And I can almost promise you this, the people
Mm-hmm.
are there. I really
Right.
believe the people are there, but because you're unclear on what you need and want, they're not going to just pop up and go, I can do this for you. So you've got to be able to articulate and understand what you need and how that person can help you.
Mm. And of course, in all of this, there are going to be some challenges and, of course, opportunities. So, in your experience, what are some of the common challenges that an entrepreneur might face in building and leveraging this social capital, and how can they overcome them?
I think the biggest challenge is time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're a solopreneur and you're doing all this work by yourself. I laugh and say, sometimes when you have a job, you're working less hours than when you have a
Yeah.
business. And so it's the time piece, but you have to create the space for it. So what does it look like that, twice a month you allocate an hour or two to follow up on emails to new people that you want to connect to? What does it mean, for you to have coffee with someone new twice a month? Can you imagine what your network will look like by the end of the year if you just committed to doing something like that? So it's creating the time to say this is important. And what I've learned is when it's a priority, people will figure out how to make time to do things. So this
Yep.
has to become a priority for entrepreneurs to really start thinking about what are the spaces that I need to be in. Who are the key players that can help me get closer to that? And you might not jump up to, that level immediately, but you can begin to start building those relationships that will get you there. And it takes time and it takes investment. And so that typically is one of the biggest challenges. There was a conference here in Dallas in November, and I
Mm-hmm.
invited a lot of nonprofit leaders out because I was saying, hey, you need to be here. I was so disappointed because there were a number of people who did not show up, who missed funding opportunities and connections to funders
Right.
because they were too busy doing the work. Now, there were others who came and they got an
Mm-hmm.
amazing experience, but because they could not commit to 2 hours to just show up for a reception, they missed a lifetime possibility of connecting to someone who could have really helped them go to the next level. So don't allow time to be your excuse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that advice. And I love how practical you make it in terms of like just 2 hours, just laying it out there because so many people can feel like, okay, I know I need to do this, but I don't know how. And I feel like it's going to take so much of my time. So I'm not even going to do it. And you're just like two events, 2 hours. That's a good start.
Yeah, and do virtual coffees. I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
can meet someone. I've done it, and it actually resulted in business opportunities. During the
Yeah.
pandemic, I would see people online on LinkedIn that were doing great work, and I'd reach out to them and go, hey, let's talk. And it opened up doors for me to start doing different things. I met with a group that was in England out of just
What?
reaching out on LinkedIn and doing a virtual coffee. So, how do you become more intentional about saying, just as you create a plan for your life and
Mm-hmm.
companies have strategic plans, how do you create a strategy around building your relationships? Because you can't just do this by happenstance. You have to be very intentional and deliberate about how you're going to do this because it does take time.
Yeah, yes, it definitely does. And one of the things I also want to talk about is because this is the Black to Business podcast dealing with Black entrepreneurs and the role that cultural nuances and diversity to have into all of this. So, how do cultural nuances and diversity considerations impact this relationship building efforts, especially when it comes to Black entrepreneurs?
It's so true. I mean, to
Mm-hmm.
to think about, one, some of the challenges that we have in DEI spaces
Yes.
and what's going on with legislation around that makes it so difficult for many of us to even be in those spaces and talk about, how we need access to contracts just based on what's going on in many of the states that we're in. That does not stop you. And so, what does it mean to really begin to recognize that there are various cultures who have, differences about how they see business? I think what we have to
Mm-hmm.
learn as Black people is what we bring is a strength. And I'm often concerned when we approach situations from this deficit based lens
Yes.
of we don't have this, we don't have that. And it's true, there are a lot of things we don't have access to, but there's even more that we do. So, how do we make sure that, one, when you're going into spaces where people are different, don't change and become something that you're not? Always remain authentically true to who you are. I am unapologetically who I am. Now, there are things that I will change and need to change because it makes me a better me. But in terms of being a Black woman, I am unapologetically a Black woman. And
Mm-hmm.
I am going to bring that into the spaces that I'm in, and I don't apologize for that. And what I've come to discover is if people don't want to work with me because of that, that might not be a space that I want to be in to begin with.
Yeah.
But you can recognize that there are people that want to work with you. So it's important to build relationships within our community, definitely. But you also want to start thinking about, are there other groups of
Mm-hmm.
people that are, again, sympathetic in terms of having similar cultural dynamics? How can we work with them? And even people that are allies, are there opportunities to start bringing in people that are culturally different into our spaces, recognizing that it's okay to be who you are and you don't have to change that. But it's also important for us to know that we live in a global world and that we need to be open to the possibility of having, different relationships that also can help enrich our lives and our companies.
Yes. And so people are listening and they're like, Dr. Froswa is on point. I'm going to implement all these things. I'm going to reach out to the people 2 coffees a month. And so what are some of the indicators that this is working? So how do you begin to measure the effectiveness of this relationship building effort?
That's an excellent question. Well, in nonprofit management, we talk about this term called outcomes, and it's really about, changes in behaviors, changing in thinking, changing in skills. So you want to start to focus on what are the outcomes out of these relationships? Is there a change in the way that you may see things and how you do your business? That's a win. Does it result in additional business opportunities? Are you getting speaking engagements as a result of these relationships? Have they introduced you to someone else that now is helping you and your network? So I think that there are a number of things that you can begin to see as outcomes in doing this work, but recognize that you also have to put some things into it. And so there's this term called outputs. That's like, how many people did I meet with? How much time did it take? Those may not necessarily move the needle, but they're important. And so you want to start paying attention to, if I go to this number of meetings, what did it result in me showing up at this group? And did it open up doors for me? If I'm seeing this number of clients, how many of them are actually making more referrals to other potential clients? Those are things that can be measured too, but they may
Yeah.
not necessarily change long term, your success, but they can contribute to it. So how do you as a business owner think about both of those? What are the short term wins that you need by going to some meetings and building a relationship with someone new that then long term, after some investment, could result in a difference in how your business is operating because of that relationship? So there are ways that you can measure that. And one of the things I would encourage business owners to do is, how do you use, CRMs? What is it about creating, and I don't want to do a public relations announcement for these folks, but it's a great platform, HubSpot. Many
Mm-hmm.
people, who use Salesforce. HubSpot is another. So how do you use technology to help you manage those relationships? That's another indicator of success. How is your network growing? How are you seeing people as a result of connecting? If you're doing a newsletter, that people are reaching out to you more on your website. There are ways that you can use those CRMs to help you grow your network and leverage those existing relationships. And that's a great indicator right there. It's just having a way that helps you track where the relationship is going and growing.
Yeah, I love that. And I love, we're definitely going to put that resource in the show notes. We always love some good resources. And I love that you mentioned that also, because it makes me think about the long game, because so many times people think that something has to happen right then. And you're saying that it might take time, and that's okay.
Oh, I've had people that I've met who've come back years later and I'm going,
Mm-hmm.
how did you remember me? And they're like, I want you to speak at X event. The other
Yeah.
thing that you have to think about as an entrepreneur, my mother says this all the time, you never know when you're entertaining angels,
Mm.
which basically means be nice to everybody,
Right.
because quite often we're looking for someone in the suit and tie that can be the life changer for us. And it might be the person with the broom
Come
who's
on.
connected to someone very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
So be very careful about how you treat people, because one, people are watching you and your
Mm.
character will lead wherever you go. And so as a business person, it's not about the flyers and the website. That's important, but it's your character and your integrity. When those are intact, you will build relationships and people will speak about you because of who you are, not just what you do.
Yes, that is true. It's perfect segue into my next point, because at first we were thinking, I was like, we have to ask Dr. Froswell about this, because I know she's the perfect person to talk to this about building and managing your reputation. So, so key, and exactly what you're talking about. So I want you to hone in on why reputation management is important for entrepreneurs, and how does this really tie into that building social capital?
Oh my goodness, that social
Mm-hmm.
media, y'all need to be careful. I mean, even just retweeting certain ideas and
Yeah.
thoughts can hurt you long term. It may not have an immediate impact, but let's be honest, you're looking at right now where people were in movies 20 years ago
Mm-hmm.
that folks are calling out stuff they said. It was a different context and time, but it doesn't fit in our current society. So
Right.
you have to be very mindful of what are you posting on social media. So, if you want to show certain body parts, go forward. The thing is, with everything we do, there are consequences to doing
Yeah.
that. And so you just have to be mindful of what is the audience that you're trying to attract and what is it that you want to say. And a lot of people will go, well, that's my personal account. Let me be honest. No, it really isn't, because people don't separate you as a
Mm-hmm.
person and you from your business. They don't see the difference and recognize when you're on, for business, and when you're off, wanting to let your hair down. It's hard for people to make those distinctions. That doesn't mean that you don't live your life and enjoy your life. It means that you're selective with what you share with the general public about everything you do. It's not being deceptive, it's being a person with discernment to decide, is this something that 10 years from now I'm going to be proud of that I put up?
Right.
Is this something that my grandkids will look at and go, you know what, grandma was wonderful, or, oh, what was wrong with her? So I think it's one, watching your social media, because that's going to attract people to what you do, because you can have a great product and not be a great person. And we see that a lot, where people may start off very good because the product is good, but we're seeing people now who had some great products because of some of the things that they've said or who they've aligned with, that their shares are going down in their company, and that their competitors who are coming up right beside them doing very similar work, but because the competitor has character and integrity and walks in a different way, they're now benefiting. So just be
Mm-hmm.
mindful of that.
Yes. And so, what are some tips that you can provide for entrepreneurs to start to or build that positive reputation, especially within their industries?
So I'm often saying to people, what are you posting?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to even be your original thought, but are you posting content that's valuable? So
Yeah.
begin to start thinking about yourself in terms of thought leadership. What are you adding to the industry? And so it's not to give away all your ideas and, your secret sauce, but are there spaces that you can begin to write blogs, write opinion pieces? Are there opportunities for you to speak at meetings or go to Kiwanis and Lions clubs and other spaces that you can show up and talk a bit more about what you do and what you've learned? What business owners have to understand is no one can do what you do. Even if there's
Mm-hmm.
someone who does the exact same thing, they will not do it the way that you do. So, how do you begin to start accentuating and sharing the niche that you provide, that no one else has the same lived experience or have, gone through what you've gone through? How do you use that to build your business? And so, begin to start thinking about, how do you create content even on your social media that allows people to see who you are and see your thought leadership. And that's a way for you to begin to really start building these relationships in your industry. Start thinking about professional associations. Are there groups that you can not only go to and listen, but are there opportunities for you to speak and be on committees and share your expertise to get visibility for the work that you do and for your knowledge?
Mm-hmm. That's some good advice. And in all of this, maintaining that consistency. So, how do you maintain the consistency in behavior and the communication when it comes to shaping one's reputation?
Make sure you have a thought partner too.
Mm-hmm.
You want to make sure that you have people around you in your inner circle who can help you stay consistent in your behavior, who are people who know you and have investment in you, because we're human and all of us have moments of hypocrisy. It's just the reality of who we are as we
Mm-hmm.
evolve and grow. But what does it mean to really build your inner circle? I often say to people, you need your own kitchen table. And what I mean by that is, you need a group of people who are going to tell you the truth about who you are, and that they're not afraid of losing relationship with you because they're not tied to you in that kind of way. They truly care about you. You want people who, as I said earlier, are going to call you out, but also call you in. So build your own personal kitchen table of people that can help you with thinking about your behavior and giving you, feedback, because we all have blind spots, but also having people around you that can shape your communication. All of us are not PR folks. So, is there an opportunity for you to connect to someone who can help you with messaging? Is there an opportunity to work with interns? I often say, folks miss out on colleges because there are a wealth of resources. I mean, you can work with college students who are PR majors or in communication who can help you with your social media and who can help you think about, building a brand. If you have the ability to afford someone who specializes in that, by all means, invest in it. But if you're just starting out and you don't have that kind of resource, what does it mean to get a graduate student or an undergraduate student in those fields who can help you with crafting a message and thinking about colors and how do you want to convey who you are through your colors, and what is the message of your brand that you want people to relate through, and understand through your logo. You can use college students, and it's a win for them because they're getting valuable experience, and that's a way that you can help make sure that you have a consistent message, because you're now developing a brand kit that you can use over and over again.
Yes. And Dr. Froswa, what happens when you might get it wrong? So how can an entrepreneur recover from a setback or a damage to their reputation and start to rebuild that trust within their networks?
Be honest. I think one of the problems is people don't control their own narrative. So you allow other people to create stories for you when things go wrong. Get out in front of it and be honest and authentic. Yeah, I messed up. Could have done that differently. People respect authenticity more than we realize. And when people try to, not take responsibility, blame others for what they're doing, folks see right through that. And so to do this, if you mess up, because you will, own it, be honest, and get ahead of the narrative, and then start putting in place things that show that you've learned from the mistake and that you're going to do it differently. And so whether that is having one-on-one conversations with people that are offended or that an offense was done to, whether it's real or perceived, talk to people. Don't send text messages. Don't send emails. If there is an actual offense that has happened, go to the person and have a real conversation about it, and be more apt to listen than to defend yourself, so that you are able to listen, learn from them, and then take that information. Even if you can't use it, it's something that you do to give people space who care about you and who want better for you, to know that you're interested in how they feel and their opinion. So be transparent, and that's how you get ahead of that. So be prepared, because it happens, but it doesn't mean that you can't recover from it.
Certainly. Dr. Froswa, I must tell you, this has been one of the best conversations and just so much to gain. I want to talk now about the work that you are doing. So can you share how Solstice Consultancy is helping entrepreneurs with maybe building their relationships and leveraging social capital? So just discuss your offers and services.
I do a lot of coaching and helping, business owners, leaders really start thinking about, one, who are you? Because I think it's important to understand your own personal mission and your own goals before you start building a business, or even if you've started. What does it mean to really start thinking about the message of you? And so I work with people on thinking about that, talking about their leadership skills and styles, and helping them think about how they collaborate better in communities, how they collaborate with their teams and other organizations, giving them strategies to think about who are the people that you need in your network. There are times even I've helped people with partnership brokering, where I've, made introductions and help people think about who are the folks that you need to know, and how do we get them, or get you access to getting to know those folks. So that's some of what I do. I do a lot of training. So I work with groups and training them on better understanding what is social capital, how do you use it. I help people think about how they build their partnerships. So, that's something else that I love doing those things, because I really believe that relationships are what we need. That is the key to all of our problems.
Yes, certainly. I love that. And in your experience, are there any stories that stand out, with your clients, that you can think about that just really are memorable?
There are a number of them. There's one when I was very young in my career, of a young lady that I helped go to college. She had lost her mother, and I broke my back in trying to help this young lady get into Georgetown. I'll never forget this. And to see that years later she found me.
Wow.
and reached out and said to me, I mean, we're talking 25 plus years later, and said, because of you, I went to college and law school, and I'm practicing law and doing my own thing and have my own
Wow.
business. And what that taught me was, one, you never
Mm-hmm.
know what your time does and the investment of just pouring into
Yes.
people. But it also says that those are the things that make people, remember you, are the small
Mm-hmm.
things. Some people would have said that's not important. I mean, anybody could help someone with doing that, but it was the time that I took and invested in that person. And that's what I do when I work with clients. I am committed to pouring into you, giving you resources. And so this is not a sales pitch, but it's just to
Yeah,
say
yeah.
that to have that kind of story from that many years ago just makes me go, what we do is legacy building. And as business owners, if we're not really thinking about how we're building legacy in this work, we're missing a real opportunity to make a huge impact. And that for me was legacy building.
Love that. And speaking of like legacy building, I want to know, like in your journey, what do you think has been like, if you had to say, what has been the best risk that you've taken?
Walking away from a job that had amazing benefits and a huge bonus,
Yes.
that was a huge risk. And transparency, I was going through a divorce, had moved out, got my
Mm-hmm.
own place, and walked away from a job that had enormous security and benefits, and didn't have the support of a job or a spouse, and had to walk out and start. And I thought I was starting over. And one of my girlfriends corrected me and said, "You're not starting over. You're bringing everything with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're never starting over because you got all of this experience you bring." But that was a huge risk because I didn't have the support of another salary. I didn't have benefits. I didn't have health insurance. And I took a risk and walked out. And what has been amazing is I've done better without it than when I had it.
Mm. Thankfully, you had some good people at your kitchen table.
Baby, I'm telling you, and
Yes.
and and people who, were like, "Hey, let's count the cost." But
Yeah.
I had friends who were saying to me, because I was working in a community that I loved, and I remember saying, "I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to walk away from this." And a friend of mine said, "But if you don't do this, you'll never know what's on the other side. And what you may do on the other side may be greater for that community than if you stay there." And it actually has proven to be true. And so the thing I tell my daughter all the time is bet on you.
Yes.
A lot of people will bet on everybody else, but then second guess themselves. Bet on you because you know what you're capable of doing. And I may not have known all the business ins and out, but I knew my work, and I knew that I had the ability to do something impactful. And so for me, it was a partnership with God. And I'm a strong person of faith. And so I just believe when I'm in partnership with God, magical things happen in beautiful ways. But I've learned that when I put God's business first, God takes care of my business.
Yes. I love that. And Dr. Froswa, what would you say to that person? Because we have a lot of early stage entrepreneurs who are in their early years of their journey, maybe the first year of business, and things may not be going as they planned. What advice would you give them?
Don't give up.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrifying. There's so much that I made mistakes on. I could tell stories about the IRS and taxes and
Mm-hmm.
things that I just did not know as a business owner. I was like, I just can make money, and didn't understand S corps and all those different things.
Yeah.
But surround yourself, with a great team of people. You need a great accountant and you need a great attorney. And I always tell people, you got to get you a team of people that can help you walk through this, because you're not going to be an expert on everything. And if you think you are, you're definitely going to mess up. So recognize your limitations as a small business owner and be okay with asking people for help, because I've had to do that, because accounting is not my first thing or love. I love the money, but to do all of the stuff that it requires, I needed to have someone who understood that and could help me. So
Mm-hmm.
surround yourself with people that can help you, and don't give up on you. Keep going.
Love that. And I want to ask you any favorite tools, resources, or books that have helped you in your entrepreneurial journey?
One of my favorite books I tell people all the time is a book called Building the Bridge as You Walk on It. Because as an
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur, that's what many of us are doing. You are building the bridge and walking on it at the same time. And there's nothing wrong with that. And it's a great book to help you think about leadership. One of my favorites. Another one I recommend often is a book called Immunity to Change. And it's by these two authors out of Harvard. And what they talk about is, as adults, we think we can't change, but you can. And oftentimes there are these barriers in our thinking that prevent us
Mm-hmm.
from creating the change we want to see. That book is an excellent tool to help you think about, even as a business owner, if you've got a weird issue with money, you need to
Mm-hmm.
begin to examine that. And that's the kind of tool, and they have something called an immunity map. It's the kind of tool that can help you begin to start deciphering what's getting in the way of the success you want to achieve.
Mm-hmm. Definitely gonna write those down. I love that. Michael was like, "Oh, you gotta ask her for some book recommendations because I know she's gonna have some good ones." So I said, "I'm gonna be sure to ask her." So there we go. Love that. Thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
my final question is, what does it mean to you to be Black in business?
It means that I am standing on the shoulders of my ancestors. I am the dream that they wished that they could have the opportunities to do. And even though there are challenges and barriers and obstacles, I am so proud to be able to have my own business and to be
Mm-hmm.
able to do something that my grandparents were not able to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so to be able to do this and bring other people on board with me and help grow them, it means to me the world that I have this opportunity to do something not only meaningful now, but the legacy later on that I'll leave for my daughter through this.
Yes, beautiful. And I have to brag on the daughter because she has gotten her mother set up all good for this interview, and you are doing an amazing job. So I love it.
Thank
And
you. She works for me. Believe it or not, she
oh,
graduated from
yes.
college. She graduated from
What?
college and came to work for me. And it has been a gift having her because she is
Yeah.
remarkable. And what's been crazy is other people are trying to hire her away because they see how good she is. And so I'm
Yeah.
honored that I played a little part in the remarkable woman that she is now.
Yes, you have. I've seen it. I've heard it in action. So you are, yes, I love that. And
Thank
Dr.
you.
You're welcome. Dr. Froswa, this has been phenomenal. And I know people are going to want to know how they can find you, support you, and work with you. So please do share.
Reach out. My website is drfroswabooker.com.
Hmm.
You can email me at info@drfroswa.com. And then I'm on Instagram. My child runs my social
Yeah.
media, so she takes care of that. But you can go to at Dr. Froswa on Instagram. And then I'm on LinkedIn, which is where I spend a lot of time
Hmm.
there and posting and sharing information. So reach out to me on any of those platforms, and I respond. I really do.
Yeah. I love it. Dr. Froswell, this has been amazing. I will say, like, this has been one of the most, like, it has been a therapeutic conversation too. Your voice and tone is like calm, and it's been great.
Amen. Thank you so much. That blesses me. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thank you so much for pouring into us and also the work that you are doing. Keep on going. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I am truly blown away by this conversation. So I want to take a moment to reflect on the invaluable insights shared by Dr. Froswa. She really emphasized the importance of cultivating your own kitchen table, your network of key individuals who will vouch for you, support you, and propel you towards success. But remember, it's not about knowing everyone. It's about nurturing genuine connections with those who truly matter. Dr. Froswell also provided practical tips that are both actionable and manageable, reminding us that meaningful relationship building doesn't have to be overwhelming. You can start small and gradually expand your network over time, allowing it to grow organically. We love that. And let's not forget the significance of reputation management, a crucial aspect of building trust and credibility within your network. By consistently demonstrating integrity and reliability, you can solidify your reputation as a trusted ally and valuable asset in any professional setting. And finally, Dr. Froswell's insight into the role of a network weaver was truly eye-opening for me. This was my first time hearing about this, and I really love how she broke it down. Understanding that your connections may evolve and expand without you is also a powerful reminder to embrace the fluidity of relationships and to be open to new opportunities as they arise. I want to thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the Black to Business family. Your support means the world to us. And remember, you can always visit blacktobusiness.com/199 to learn more about today's episode and access those additional resources that were mentioned by Dr. Froswa. We'll be back here next week, same time, same place, with another episode. But until then, stay empowered, stay inspired, and keep pushing the culture forward. Later.